Hello, this is Dale. I'm joined by Mike and also our new county sheriff, Dave Daniel, and he's joined. We also have John Auburn from his office. So, good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening to you, Mike.
Oh, yes. Yes. Good evening there, Dale.
Okay, well, thanks everyone for joining us. See you next time.
That was a great show. Thanks a lot.
Yes, yes. So, Sheriff Daniel.
Yes, sir.
You wanted this job. Sorry. You wanted this job, and you probably had some idea of the challenges that were ahead of you. What has turned out to be your biggest surprise so far?
Well, Dale, I wanted the job, but even more so, I think I had an obligation to do it just as much. I worked here. Started with the City of Grants Pass back in 1995, and I've slowly seen the decline of a state of our law enforcement here. So coming towards the end of my career, at least in the latter years, I really didn't want to sit back and watch, criminals get set free or not just get tickets to appear and then never go to court and just kind of run amok, if you will. So I thought the best way for me to have an effect on that is to, take your best foot and stick it forward, and hopefully you can have an impact. I certainly have the belief that I will have an impact, and our office will start to have a greater presence in the county. That's my hope. But to answer your question, what's one of the biggest, what was the greatest thing I've seen? Is that what it was?
No, I was asking about surprises. There's always a surprise
Right.
when you take over a new job. What did you find was your biggest surprise, the thing for which you were not quite prepared?
Uh,
Mike, can you bring up his audio level a little bit, please?
Oh, sure.
well, I guess there's been a ton of surprises. And anytime I come into an organization, anybody comes into an organization, you're going to find and uncover things that were overlooked before or just missed. And certainly, I have nothing to say bad about my predecessor. I really don't. He's a hardworking guy and certainly dedicated. But really, I think it's the lack of training of where we're at right now. And by training, I mean at the line level, certification-wise. In law enforcement, things change so fast through litigation. Obviously, attorneys are hard at work all the time, and people need a certain level of training and confidence to be, I guess, litigiously okay. Is one way to put it, I guess. And so I'm really working hard right now on bringing some of the training up to them. Difficulty is right now, though, is the money issue, and how to accomplish that goal has been one of my struggles.
Mike, his audio level's still a little bit low, but I know you'll do what you can about it. Well, in the primary, the third candidate was Ed Vincent, and
Yes.
Ed said a number of things about training levels. He was pretty tart about it. And have you found that Ed was generally right?
Yes, there's no doubt about it. Ed is now an interim sergeant in the organization, and he was promoted to that role and to be in charge of the jail operations. He was very, very passionate about this organization, and I truly think that's why he ran. It's like an extended family to him, and so he's now in a position where he can really affect the organization in a positive way, and I think he's done so. So far he's done a fantastic job.
Yesterday at the administration meeting of the county commissioners, Simon Hare had a lot of tight questions about what in the world is an interim sergeant. He didn't like it. What is an interim sergeant?
Well, what he is, it's basically I've placed him in a position where he's not outside of the Sheriff's Association yet. He's still kind of covered by that. And basically, he's kind of a cleanup guy, I guess, if you will. He's like a cleanup batter. He's coming in to make adjustments and make some changes to the organization to try and make us more fiscally responsible, deal with some of the training or lack of training issues. He's very well liked by the vast majority, if not all, of the employees here. And so, he can help affect, what was a bad morale situation as well. So interim in that, at the end of about 6 months, he's going to have an opportunity to make a decision whether he wants to stay in that position or go back out on the road or do whatever he wants to do. He had a plan to save money through overtime, through scheduling, and he's doing those things, and it's been very beneficial to our organization.
John, you're a lieutenant, is that correct, sir?
Yes.
What's your role in the Sheriff's Department?
I'm overseeing patrol, the civil division, and dispatching.
Okay, and so you've been there for a while. What's your candid? See, we love candid. What's your candid impression of this new guy coming in with, sometimes not so much of a broom, but maybe more of a shovel? What's your idea about this new guy that's here with you?
I think it's great. He's exactly what this organization needed. He's came in with new ideas. We talked about this for a long, long time. I can give him a perspective from the inside because I've seen lots of things happen over the years since I've been here. And he truly does care about the office, so that's why I truly support him.
So, look, obviously, everybody in a new position and everybody around him is going to say all these superlatives. Geez, we've got enough of that from the commissioners. Something's not gone right so far.
Yeah,
what was that thing that hasn't gone right?
Something that hasn't gone right.
And not quite right, yeah, but you're going to fix it. It just hasn't got, because we're hearing this already, guys. So, it doesn't do any good to say, oh, there's nothing, everything is a Shangri-La situation. There's probably something where you say, maybe I shouldn't have done it quite like that.
Well, I can't think of anything right now. Do you have any, what have you been hearing?
I think I'm going to turn it back to Dave rather than give you a long laundry list of things. Go ahead, Dave. You could take that.
Well, kind of same answer. If there's something I'm aware of, or you're aware of that they're saying is not right, I'd like to know what that is so I can address it.
Well, some of your people are saying, gee, there are some changes here that are just a little irritating, or maybe just a little too much, or I had no idea he was going to do that, or what happened to this guy, what happened to that guy, how come people are being raised and lowered? This wasn't what some of them expected, and they're not very happy. You already know that. So whatever you can talk about, please do.
Well, if you're talking about, I think primarily you're talking about personnel moves, and it's my responsibility to come into this organization and look at it holistically, look at all the moving parts, all the functions of the different positions, and make sure that they're being held accountable, and that they're being responsible and fiscally responsible. And I did that for about a week, and then I made some decisions. I think that's what you're going to find any CEO of a new organization would do. Obviously, our sheriff's office was struggling. That's not a secret. Even my predecessor would agree with me on that. For fiscal reasons, for demoralization reasons, and it needed a new. I guess it needed it. It definitely could use a new face. So that's what I did. I came in and made some decisions, and away we go. You're not always going to make everyone happy, but little things like giving employees evaluations, giving them the most basic pieces of training is important to people, and they hold there's value in that. Law enforcement work is not an easy job. And it's very stressful, whether in corrections or out on the road. And the people really want to feel valued. And by giving them feedback i.e. evaluations, by giving them some specialized training, even as little as we have a couple guys that just got back from some training for field training officer. And I tell you, they're sharp. They're sharp guys. And they, as soon as they got back, they went out on their own and they put their own patches on their arm because they were proud of that. Those are some of the little things that go a long way.
I got a question. Now, Dale and I and other dissenters in the county sometimes are criticized for coming in and, knowing what all the problems are, but not offering up any solutions to those problems. And I was wondering if you accept the premise that more guns in the hands of law-abiding citizens equals less crime, and I assume in a county like this you kind of have to have that perspective. Why aren't we manning with volunteers the concealed handgun license desk there 5 days a week and making a public push to get as many people with handgun licenses as possible, and not with the idea that you are going to have a lot of people brandishing firearms all over the place, but to send the message to people who do wrong that the people who do right may be in a position to fight back.
I guess basically put, guns aren't the answer. Guns aren't the answer to protect your property per se. They might be the answer to protect yourself in a life-threatening situation. The liability that people take on when they start pointing firearms at people is very high. And you have to ask yourself, are you going to be able to shoot somebody, or are you going to shoot somebody if they're trying to harm you or your family personally, physically? Well, yeah, that's always a possibility. But are you going to shoot somebody and take their life because they're trying to take your $13,000 car or
yes,
your stereo?
And that's understood. I understand that angle on it. But see, I live in the county. So
do I.
I understand that you guys aren't going to be here for at least a half an hour, and that's if you're sitting at the ready and you immediately respond to a dispatch to come to my house.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's me.
Mm-hmm.
So from that perspective, and understanding that you need to trust me because you don't have a choice really in the matter. You need to trust that I am going to act responsibly with my firearms and not use them unless absolutely necessary. But if you're out in the county, you really don't have much of a choice. And I understand that you would like that to be people's last decision, but
well, maybe last resort, not last decision.
Oh, right, yes, last resort. But the decision, I think the statistics bear out the idea that at least in the last 20 years, more guns in the hands of law-abiding citizens has equaled less crime.
Maybe. I mean, I'm a strong believer in the Second Amendment. The right to bear arms is obviously is foundational for this country, and I support that. And I'll be the first one to tell you that no one's going to take mine, and I'm not going to let anybody else take yours. So with that being said, there are those out there who should not have them, and that's the people with the mental illnesses, the people that have been convicted of felony crimes before, things like that. So whether that stops crime is one thing. I don't know. I just am very hesitant to try and tell everyone just go out and buy a gun because that's the way it's going to be. I want our county to get in a situation where we have a functioning law enforcement organization in the sheriff's office that doesn't take us a half hour to get to your house. More deputies, more rural deputies, that type of program.
You've indicated that citizens plus guns could equal some kind of challenges to the system and the way that things should be. Do you plan on not pushing for citizens to use guns, or do you plan on actually sort of opposing that? What kind of action? Are you going to be a bystander watching it happen, or are you going to be pushing in one direction or another?
And that's really, it's freedom of choice. And that's up to the individual whether they want to carry a firearm or whether they don't. If they want to carry one, also absolutely support that. If they don't, then it's no big deal, and it is what it is. I'm not going to openly push for it, just because that's really none of my business.
I ask this because the previous sheriff was encouraging people to arm themselves and was taking action to see that people got their licenses and etc. That's what he said.
Well, there's a new sheriff in town.
I was wondering when you were going to say that. Okay, so one of the things that you were handed is an emergency operations plan, an EOP, that had some very controversial things in it. We had asked at a public meeting the previous sheriff if he knew those things were in there, and he said, no, I didn't. And then he said a few seconds later, well, yes, I did. Now, you probably know what I'm talking about, and what do you have to say about it? I can review what it is, but my guess is you already know.
Go ahead and review it for me. I want to make sure we're on point.
Okay, so one of the provisions in the EOP, the Emergency Operations Plan, is that if there's an emergency and the sheriff or his deputies come out to your house and you have some things that they could really use, that they have the right to come and take them, and they don't even need to leave you a note. I'm not making this up. That's in the EOP.
Wow. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was unaware of that fact.
Well, the previous sheriff was both aware and unaware of it.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, I can tell you right now, I was unaware of that. I do believe that you're reading that from our EOP. That's a pretty tight spot. I don't know that I would be in support of that.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I said to people that had so many superlatives attached to Gil Gilbertson is, no, wait a minute, he's this constitutional sheriff. Yes, he is. And I said, well, ask him about the EOP. That didn't go over very well with Gil. He didn't want to talk about the EOP in public meetings. Maybe you can take a look at that and see if it still says that kind of thing.
Yeah, that would not be a good thing, to be honest with you. You know, you talk about the things that happened out there at Hurricane Katrina and the government's influence over the people and how things were taken like that. It didn't go over well, and I wouldn't support that. We still, even in times of crisis, I mean, people have their rights. So I would have to address that, I guess, at a later time, their deal.
Certainly, John, people are going to come to you occasionally because you've been there a while longer than our new sheriff, and they're going to say, oh, what about this and what about that? Now, obviously, what you're going to say to them is, well, give the guy some time. Isn't everybody saying that? But beyond give the guy some time, what are you telling them to make them feel a little bit better about some of these changes? Hardly anybody really likes change. What do you tell them?
Are you talking about the employees?
Okay, employees, citizens, commissioners, the President of the United States.
Much to the commissioners or a lot to the public about any of this. But as far as the employee morale goes, it's definitely up, I would say. You're going to have a few people that aren't happy with the change, but the overall morale of this office has gone up.
Dave, when you first came in, it was interesting to see one of your first decisions was that you no longer wanted to have as your liaison Keith Heck. Why?
You know, all things being new, I just wanted a fresh person to deal with. You know,
it was fresh to you.
Different ideas than the last administration, and that type of thing.
Dave, sorry, it was new to you.
Dave Daniel thing.
It was new to you because you were new.
Okay. It was really just a movement for a new vision. That's all.
What I meant to say was you were new in the position, so it was all going to be new to you. Right. What is it about? I'm going to make an assumption here. You know what that word means.
Go ahead.
I'm going to assume that it wasn't so much that you were attracted to Cheryl Walker, but that you weren't quite as confident as you would like to be in Keith Heck. Set me straight.
No, it has nothing to do. It has nothing to do with confidence or ability or anything. Again, this was just me coming in, and I wanted to try and get a fresh perspective from the commissioner's office. Simon Hare, I think, had expressed interest as well. So it wasn't a matter of, and I didn't choose necessarily. It was just that's how it went down.
One of the things that we thought that we'd see at meetings is more and timely updates when the commissioners talk to each other in a public meeting about what the heck's going on.
Mm-hmm.
What the heck is going on? We didn't see much of that with Keith Heck. Now that Cheryl Walker is your liaison, we're hearing absolutely nothing.
Well, I mean, all things are brand new. I was in Commissioner Walker's office today, speaking to her about some of the things and some of the changes. We've been corresponding via email back and forth. So the information that is coming out is I guess, you know, we're still in our infancy stages here of trying to organize a better sheriff's office.
Now, during the campaign, some of the opponents said that one of your big donors was the union, and as we all know, unions are fiercely political, and so they probably usually have a political objective in mind. Is there any connection between that and you're immediately coming out for the levy push right after you took office? Zero
connection between that. You know, it's funny, and I could certainly see, you know, the connection there where it might be of issue to people. I, you know, along with other people that were, you know, I was in a union with, believe it or not, we're not monsters. We weren't monsters. We actually do the jobs that we do because we care about people. We care about the county. We care about the city. You know, the firemen the same way. All they want to do is help. There is zero connection with any type of finances or funding or anything like that. You have a group of professionals that supported my campaign because they wanted to see things be done better, more professionally. They supported me for that reason and that reason alone, so we could hopefully provide a better service.
Dave,
I want to say that I personally voted for you because you know, we needed to have some change in the department there. I had seen 8 years of Gil Gilbertson, and I was done with that. And I thought, well, you know, I understand this is a very challenging task with the current funding and everything, and we just needed somebody new in there. So I'm hoping for the best.
Well, I appreciate that, you know, and I am too. We all are actually here, and I think things are starting to change. You know, in reference to coming out publicly in support of that levy, I think people need to remember back while I was campaigning, I also came out in support of the last levy, and so this is not anything new. And I'm not doing this because, you know, I want to. It's not like I get a raise from it. You know, to have a functioning society, there has to be at bottom line some justice. You know, the preamble to both our constitutions being, you know, the Oregon Constitution and the U.S. Constitution states justice in the first sentence. And it takes money to do that. I mean, freedom's not free. It takes, you know, our servicemen and women for years have been offering their lives for our freedom. And, well, justice isn't free either. There has to be some type of a foundation to work from, and that's why I came out publicly saying I support a money measure. I can't sit back and with an honest face and tell you that I'm going to do the best I can with what you give me. I'll do that, but I mean, the best I can is going to be pretty darn poor to serve the people. Basically, is what I'm trying to say with no money.
Dave, we were there with one and sometimes two cameras, I think, at all of your campaign appearances, and I do remember you saying this all along. We also talked, however, when you were on the panel and everybody waited for what you were going to say. You were the most important speaker, in my opinion, when SOS, Cuffs, or whatever they're calling themselves, when they had their gathering to talk to everybody about why we need to raise our property taxes. You and I had a brief discussion. You were candid with me, like you always are, and funny. Not so funny today, though. Not so funny today, Dave. So let's raise the comedy level, because, as Mike likes to say, this is a comedy show.
So actually, I tell him, shut up. Don't tell people it's a comedy show. Just be funny.
There you go. Well, I'll try and crack a joke in a little bit for you there.
Okay. So, but one of the things that you talked to me about is we were talking about this ISF, this Internal Services Fund, and I said, I don't want any of that money, and I'm not going to ask you to weigh in on whether the commissioners are bad or not. We already know that answer. But I said I would feel much more comfortable with making sure that you get 100% of the money, and then when you need toner and paper and that kind of stuff, so you buy it from the company store, from the county's ability to get things at a lower price, and you get exactly what you need, and they don't take anything out, because you and I both know, and John knows this too, that the commissioners, the percentage that they skim off the top, the percentage that they get to share, that 10% of your budget that the people would vote for if this levy was going to pass. It's not going to pass, guys, but if it did.
Yes, it is, Dale.
Okay, all right. So we're agreed that it's not going to. So the thing about that is that if you got all of it, then they wouldn't get to go off on trips to Washington, D.C. and see girls dancing on tabletops and wearing Spanglies and that kind of stuff. You would get it all. I personally would feel much more comfortable with trusting you with the money. Now, what do you have to say about that, sir?
I don't know about trips to Washington.
Haven't you been invited yet?
No. It's funny, though, Dale. And it's going to pass. But anyways, the ISF fees are, how else? I guess I can't go, if I'm going to go out and hire a human resource person, it's going to cost me a lot of money. Now, I know you and I already talked about this, but your listeners obviously need to hear a little bit of it as well. If I'm going to go hire an HR person or a finance person or all of those things, if whether the fees are being cut off the top from the commissioner's office, or whether I'm given the fees and then I pay back to the commissioner's office in a roundabout sort of way, I'm not sure that I see a whole lot of the difference.
You know what? I see a difference there, and I'll tell you that if you were in control. Now, listen, I understand there may be some quid pro quo here, like out of this levy I'll get mine and you get yours. But the thing is, if this were to pass, how does that increase the costs incurred to the commissioners, where they would need 10% of whatever the levy was? Why aren't you the better arbiter of how to spend that money?
Maybe I am. If that's the system that's in place right now, though, it's going to be difficult for me to change that.
There we go. Now we're talking. I'm not saying you just revealed something, because this is what you said the other night. But my point is, I trust you so far. And I believe...
We're still in the honeymoon phase here, Dale. Come on.
Don't tell anybody that.
We're not even 30 days in.
Hey, you wanted jokes, right?
And I believe that you're going to do this honestly and straightforward, and you know how it needs to be spent, and if you don't know, John does. So I would trust you to do the right things with this money. And so one of the problems with the commissioners saying, oh, no, this is against the law, we can't possibly do that, is when we ask them, well, show us where that says it in the law, they can't find it because it doesn't exist. And it used to be done in the way where you brought in money, you were totally in charge of it. And I know that if you had charge of the money, I'm sure of this, even if you're not, Dave, that if you were in charge of making sure how this and this and this and the paper and the services and everything, and there's a certain hourly fee for helping you with X and Y, that you would choose among all of the things that need to be done exactly what you needed, and I trust that you would do it right. That's why I'm saying it.
Well, I appreciate that.
Okay. Anything more?
Nope, I'm not going to walk down that road right now. I have an obligation to serve the people and try and protect them and their property. And that's my main focus right now. Whether the fight is over an ISF fee, that's I got to stay number one into the public safety. If that's a fight that you all want to fight, then I encourage you to put the best foot forward, like I have here at the sheriff's office.
That's a very diplomatic answer there, Dave. That's real good.
Well, I'm not a politician, but it's starting to rub off on me a little bit.
You are starting to sound a little bit like one. That's good. You did say when you were running that you had some aspirations to more than being the only guy on the road in a 1,000,000-acre county or whatever it was, wherever you used to work. You do have some aspirations. You're still a young guy. You've got some aspirations toward making a big difference somewhere.
Oh, certainly. And I've been out. I have been out on the road and called out, handling some things. But primarily right now, I'm just trying to figure out how to get us money, how to get us funded, and that's really money and safety. I guess they kind of go along hand in hand.
Speaking of being on the road, we all know that if there's a call and one person goes out, I don't know what else you can possibly do, but I just thought you'd like to talk about this a little bit. One person goes out and there's a problem. That family, the family of that officer who got killed or maimed or whatever, foot cracked or whatever, they're going to be all over this county. How come you aren't going by the standards that are well known that you should always have 2 officers? How on earth do you answer that question?
We are adhering to those standards. I won't send one officer to a situation that's going to be to that level of danger.
Then you have to know ahead of time that there's going to be a level of danger.
Well, yeah. I mean, if we receive a call, you obviously have information, and you take that information, you evaluate it, and then you go forth. If it's a call where somebody has their car broken into and it happened overnight, and the scene's cold, then yeah, one officer will go. If it's a domestic disturbance and I have 3 or 4 subjects or 2 subjects, doesn't matter, where things are volatile, 2 officers go, 2 deputies,
Not more.
if not more.
Mike, we talked the other day about people who may not be calling in because they assume that they're not going to get any help, and that may be one of the reasons that the crime statistics are a little bit out of sync. Do you want to ask any questions about that, buddy?
Well, I just noticed that in the crime stats, we recently got some crime stats from 2007 up through 2012, I believe it was, that show that in the county there is it's like 4 to 1 less crime per capita, and also we're not even in the the upper tier of the counties in our area in terms of violent crime per capita.
Huh. Yeah, I don't know that you can trust those statistics, gentlemen. When you work off of a system where people are calling in and they're getting forwarded to a web page to file their complaint, and they're not actually speaking to a person, it's difficult. The city of Grants Pass has very, very, very good statistics, and they go through IBIS, which is international, or I should say international. It's a standard that they have to adhere to for their statistics. We're not there, largely just due to financial plight. It's just not good enough. So again, statistics are only as good as the numbers, I guess, and that is the focus of mine, to try and work on that.
Okay, but in the county, just in Josephine County, the numbers for in the county versus in the city of Grants Pass are like 4 to 1 in terms of those ratios, and yet everybody's going to be paying the same amount. What do you say to people who say, I'm out in the county, there hasn't been a sheriff's patrol on my street in the entire time that I've lived here? That's my own personal story, by the way. And so we're going to be subsidizing the city's safety with a pass of the levy. What do you say to that?
Well, I say we got to work together. I don't, for so long it's been, we are Selma, or we are Wolf Creek, or we are all these different parts of this county, when really it's one community, and so we got to start thinking that way. I mean, it takes, for the city's perspective, it takes a jail. We have to have a jail for the people that commit offenses in the city, just as well as in the county. We can't put up a sign at the city at the border of the city of Grants Pass or the city of Cave Junction and say, bad guys don't come here, or vice versa, or bad guys all stay here.
Right, but you know what? I own a commercial building in the city, and my water bills, water/sewer bills, have gone up by about 25 to 30%. Just in the past few months, because of this extra added tax to that. Certainly that has to be making some sort of a difference in covering the bills of incarcerating people that are arrested in the city limits.
It does, and it's had for the city of Grants Pass, I believe it's had a tremendous effect. Things are going to change. It's my understanding, and you can confirm this later, that the city of Grants Pass has absolutely no intention of continuing that utility tax. I've spoken with Chief Landis already, and what my intention is to combat, or to equal that out, I guess, is to start lodging, or at least booking in, everyone that's arrested. Everyone that's is an alleged criminal, that they all come to jail. Right now, there's an external matrix going on where the Oregon State Police might be issuing a citation to appear for a person out in the valley or up north towards Sunny Valley or wherever they're at, and they're just cutting them loose. That doesn't help us. There's no there's no punishing agent there at all, even if it's just for mere annoyance of having to go to jail for 10 minutes if that's the case. I want my matrix to be internal. I want everybody to come to jail. That would take care, in part, of that utility tax, because right now, as it stands, pretty much everybody that gets arrested in the city of Grants Pass comes to jail. Well, it should be that way countywide regardless.
So it is your understanding that if the levy passes, that part of your water/sewer bill, that goes away?
Yes, absolutely. And the people that are arrested will still go to jail. That would be my policy.
John, just one more question for you and one more for Dave. You watch the campaigns pretty carefully. You've heard what people have said. Over these last few months, what have you looked at and said, because everybody's always asking the same questions, we're trying not to here. What have you looked at and said, that's probably the best question that anyone's ever asked of Dave Daniel? What is it that impressed you about any of the questions where you go, yeah, right, there's a good question?
Nothing really stands out. There's a lot of questions and he had a lot of good answers. I mean, probably the best question was people asking why he wanted to do this job, because it's a tough job. And the fact that he wants to do it because he truly does want to make it a better place. And I really do believe that's probably the best answer.
Dave,
I personally have been fighting back the urge to ask, if you were a tree, what kind of tree would you be? But that's
Barbara Walters, yes. Dave, it's always a good idea when you're talking with an expert.
Money tree. I'd be a money tree. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's a good answer. So what is it that, if everybody just knew this one thing, if everybody just knew this one thing, that your job would be so much easier?
I want everybody to be willing to be part of the solution. That's the deal. Everybody has a stake in this. I do. Both of you do, and you have decisions to make coming up pretty soon here. Know that this organization is trustworthy and is going to work its hind end off for this county. We need support. We need the support of the public. You know, there's a money measure coming up, and people can make a decision as to how they want their kids, you know, to be safe or not safe, or their property to be missing when they wake up in the morning, you know, or anything. You know, I'm currently conducting an internal audit, if you will, of the finances of this department. It was a campaign promise that I made before, and I'm holding true to that. Nothing of significance has come up at all yet with that, which I'm very pleased about. I'm going to be conducting a complete audit of our evidence facility very soon here. So I know that every piece of evidence is exactly where it should be for no matter how old it is. I still have the main goal of creating deputies, resident deputies, to put out in the field and to get them in offices in our high schools in the three corners of this, if you will, three corners of this county. My focus is on some of those rural areas that haven't had the service in the past. There may be reasons why they didn't. I can only speculate. Maybe it's because the federal money was just coming in hand over fist, and nobody was held accountable or responsible as to the service level that was provided. That's changed now. You're looking at a different organization, a different set of leaders in the community, and I mean that from the new chief to a new parole and probation director to a new sheriff to a new district attorney. It's a complete change of hands, and if the people are willing to try and be a huge part of this solution so we can move forward. I just received a phone call from Klamath County Sheriff this morning, and you know, he offered to come over and speak about how when his community got behind the sheriff's office, how successful and the huge amount of impact it made in their county. I want that here. I want that here, and it's I guess in closing, you know, all I can do is ask for the help with, you know, open arms, and ask that you trust that I'm going to do the right things with the money given, with people's safety as a priority.
Now we're going to talk about you behind your back, Mike. I like this guy, and I believe him when he tells us these things. Okay, I've been wrong before, but I don't think I'm wrong this time. And the analogy I would use is I got a call a year ago from this outfit that said, hello, we're gathering money. This is the commissioners now. Okay, oh, we're gathering money for fire departments in this area. And I said, oh, really? And I said, what area are you in? Well, don't you like fire departments? Don't you think they're important? I said, yeah, but what area are you in? Well, we're trying to tell you about Sparky the dog and saving cats from trees, and we really need to gather money. And I said, where are you? Well, we're in Florida. Here's the thing. If I know where the money's going, yeah, buddy, I'm going to go for that. If I don't know where the money's going, or commissioners or anybody else is saying, let's keep the spending of this money purposely vague, that's what they said. I'm not making that up. They said that on tape. How can they say that on tape? Mike, I'll ask you that question another time. But the thing is that if I don't know where the money's going, I don't want to give them a dime. And if I do know where the money's going, if it's a local fire department or support your local sheriff, I'm all for it, buddy. What do you have to say, Mike?
You know what? I'm not the huge levy supporter guy. And I'm going to have to see a lot better evidence than they would give to you, Dale. So I don't know. We'll see how this plays out. So far, I think a change is always good, and I wish we could change politicians every 8 years. Personally,
take a close look and read the ballot title when it comes out. Really look at what it promises, and then you may be pleasantly surprised.
Okay.
Okay. In any event, so far, I'll give Dave the benefit of the doubt, and I'm looking forward to good things happening. I am a little worried about, because every year we hear that in July we're going to go off the cliff, and every year they give this same warning that we're going to go off the cliff, and for some reason we haven't gone off the cliff or something. I'm not sure what the deal is, but I'm interested to see how things happen if we don't get the levy and we still go off the cliff, allegedly.
Well, I guess your definition of going off the cliff and my definition is going off the cliff are two different definitions. I mean, do you think we're at a level right now, and this is a question I guess to both of you, do you think we're at a level right now where your public safety services are adequate?
No, I don't think so.
Then we're already off the cliff.